Hey guys, Chad Corbett, co-founder, trainer, and wearer of many hats here at All the Leads. Today I am with probate attorney, estate planning attorney, and real estate professional Jon Fraker. Welcome, Jon.
Hey, Chad. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Guys, I've been looking forward to doing this video for like 2 years now. I've looked for the right person to do this video with. And just this week, Jon was watching one of our YouTube videos or heard something that we did and was kind enough to volunteer his time and expertise for the benefit of everybody here. So this is going to be a wide-ranging conversation. We're not going to get into specific laws in your state or your county. What we are going to focus on is what are the biggest challenges for probate attorneys? What are the biggest challenges for realtors and investors that are trying to network with them, how they can provide real value, what they've done in the past that just completely turns attorneys off and makes you want to slam the door in their face, and some other ideas. So Jon and I have a habit of finding very interesting rabbit holes, so you're probably going to have a lot of unexpected nuggets here. We're not really going on the script. We're just trying to give you guys as much value as we possibly can while you have the opportunity to hear it directly from the horse's mouth. So Jon, let's jump right in, man. Anything you want to say in opening?
No, I'm just really excited to be here. I've been listening to a bunch of the YouTube videos, and I've noticed that quite a few of your members are asking, how do I build relationships with trust attorneys or probate attorneys, and how do I even get started? And so that's why I reached out to you guys, said, hey, I can help with that.
Tell us, how about a little quick bio? Tell everybody about yourself.
Sure. So I've actually been licensed in California, in Northern California, born and raised here in near San Jose. I was undergrad at Berkeley, did my law school at USC down in Los Angeles. So I've been a licensed attorney. This is my 20th year, actually. So 1999 is when I was licensed.
And it's his birthday. Happy birthday, Jon.
Oh, thank you. It's my birthday when we're recording it, not when they'll be watching it. So yeah, thank you. So yeah, I set up my own law firm all the way back in 2002. Prior to this, myself and my law firm partner were trust officers at banks. So kind of our unique niche is administering hundreds, if not thousands of clients, trust, probates, all that stuff. So, when we were new, I was telling people, the reason to use us is before we ever drafted our first trust, we'd administered thousands of them. And we learned there's a lot of law and a lot of estate planning that's theory. That sounds good in a book, but then there's a lot that's actually what life is actually like with families, dealing with people. Estate planning is probably, other than maybe divorce law, it's the most human subject material in all of law. As a field, you're dealing with real people, families, deaths, inheritances, taxes, all that good stuff. But it's an extremely human field of law. And that's why I love it so much, is you're actually helping families.
Yeah. And you've got a lot of stories of messes you've had to clean up and where things were not structured properly by other attorneys coming before you.
Exactly.
Jon shared a lot of those stories the other night. It's actually a lot of those stories are pretty sad. People do lose probably daily millions of dollars of legacy wealth just because somebody did sloppy work, or they didn't take the advice they were given, or they never funded the trust to begin with. So they took the time to set it up, but then they procrastinated to finish.
Yep.
And then you've been a licensed real estate agent for how long now?
This is my 5-year. In California, you renew your license every 5 years. This is my 5-year renewal coming up.
Nice. So you guys see why I think Jon is the perfect guy to do this video with us. He's super intelligent, lots and lots of experience in the probate and law space, but also understands it from a real estate perspective and knows what it's like to be an agent. And have you invested too? You've bought and sold homes?
Not so much on the investing side, more just the traditional real estate.
Yeah, but understanding contract law, you certainly understand the investment side of the business.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, I've actually done LLCs for my investor clients, but I haven't done as much on the real estate buying and selling for investors. It's been more of the traditional realtor side on that.
We have a mutual friend that you worked in his office, and I know you got to were part, got to see his investment model and how he partnered with families with homes. And
that was legendary.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jon's got everything you could ask for as far as skill set goes to be the expert as part of our Ask the Expert series. So let's start with kind of the high level. I want to talk about one of the things that I don't think most people I don't think they're prepared to have the conversation, and I think it would be valuable for them to learn about. Let's talk about the true cost of probate to a family. And again, guys,
Sure.
keep in mind, John is in California. This is pretty much going to apply everywhere. It could be more expensive in California, but let's talk about the actual cost of probate and compared to the cost of setting up a living trust or other estate planning tools. And maybe some of the examples that where you've been able to demonstrate to families it makes sense to go ahead and do this now. It might be uncomfortable to talk about your own death, but it's going to be even more uncomfortable for your family if we don't. So what's the cost difference?
Well, California is its own crazy probate system. So the state legislature actually sets up the fee for the attorney and the executor, and it's based on a percent of the size of the estate. So a $1 million estate in California costs $23,000. That's the attorney's fees. Also, if you have a will that does not force the executor or the family member to work for free, they're entitled to the same fee. Right. So in other words, a $1 million estate could actually be $46,000 in fees to the attorney and the executor. And then you're going to throw on filing fees. You have to throw on, in California, we have a probate referee. That's an impartial individual who comes in and appraises the real estate to help the families come to a resolution on how much stuff is worth. So all that together, you're looking right around almost 5% of the value of the estate goes to fees and costs, not to mention the horrific delays, especially up here in the Bay Area where the courts are just overwhelmed to the breaking point.
And that's what I've heard. So the average probate across the country is somewhere between 4 and 7% of the gross estate value is about what you should expect. Yeah. And I imagine the more family members and the more assets there are, you might move closer to that 7%, where simpler estates might be close to the 4.
Yeah.
So on that same $1 million scenario, how much would it cost a typical family with a relatively average estate, like a set of assets? How much would it cost them to establish and fund a living trust?
On the administrative side, probably 5,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
Just to get the work done. The one misnomer some of our clients have is they think that just because I have a living trust, there's nothing to do when somebody dies, and that's not the case.
Right.
But it's far more streamlined. It's much faster. Selling real estate in a trust is a snap of the fingers. Everything's done by the trustee in the privacy of their attorney's office. So they're not asking a judge for permission to do anything. They're not really concerned about the creditors. Our probate system in California, it works very much like bankruptcy. In other words, the point of our probate system and why it takes so long is that all your creditors have to be noticed and given an opportunity to come and make a claim on the estate, so that when the process is done, the debts of the decedent don't go on to the kids. But in exchange for that, it's an extremely cumbersome court-driven process where in trust administration, the priority is on the family, not your creditors, right? So I always tell people, look, the state of California wants your creditors paid. You don't care about that. Your concern is making sure if something happens to you and your spouse today, that your kids have your guardian for your kids, the trustee has immediate access to your money right away. And they don't have to ask a judge permission. They don't have to go on a monthly stipend, which is what happens. Like in the probate system, if you have minor kids and you need money for their support while probate is happening, you actually have to ask the judge for permission to do it like a family stipend, a monthly stipend for the kids. And that's ludicrous. Nobody wants their creditors prioritized and put ahead of their kids.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's our probate system. So, it's not just the money, it's the time savings, it's the hassle savings, it's the ability to do stuff intelligently and quickly without having to ask anyone for permission.
Yeah. And even in states like Virginia, I mean, where my home market, we have basically an express lane compared to California, to the point we don't even use probate attorneys in my part of the state. In Northern Virginia, they're starting to. But it's still a complicated, slow-moving process compared to a trust in Virginia. Even though there's not that much court oversight with a trust. You basically file the last tax return, pay the taxes, and move on, right? And
exactly.
You don't have to drag it out for 3 to 6 months, even in a fast lane.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what is the fastest you've ever closed a probate case in California, and what is the longest it's ever taken you?
That's brutal. The shortest is probably like 7 to 8 months. So the crazy part about probate is when we were talking about the creditors, The probate system has built into it a 4-month window of creditor notification. And what that means is before the hearing that gives the executor their authority, their letters, you have to send out, letters to all known creditors. You have to publish the legal notice 3 times before the hearing to let your creditors know that something's going to happen. Someone's going to be probating this estate. So from the moment that you set foot in the judge's court chambers and get your letters testamentary, there's a 4-month window before you can even ask to close the estate. So in the meantime, you have to, do the other parts of the estate, value the assets, get an appraisal with a referee on the real estate, sell the real estate if you need money for creditors, all that. But even in an open and shut case where there's no sale of assets or there's no financial assets other than the one house, you still can't ask to close the estate for 4 months from the date that you open it. So it's
now, is that also the case if you petition and are granted full authority?
Yeah, it wouldn't even be close in limited authority. So okay. California, our probate system is 2 different universes as it pertains to real estate specifically. And that's what you're talking about, whether you have independent authority, which means that the executor can sell the real estate without court supervision or confirmation, or the limited authority approach, which is almost always a disaster. And that's where you have the overbidding process and all that other stuff. So,
what was shocking to me when I learned about those 2 different worlds, it was shocking. It is shocking to me that so many of our customers in California come back to us and like they're in this overbid process and they're in it. So, yeah. Why do most attorneys not petition the court for full authority so you have more flexibility and less oversight? I never understood that. Like, you're getting paid the same amount of money once you settle the case, right? So, exactly. To me, if I were a probate attorney in California, that would be one of the first steps in my process. Is that normally one of your first steps?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in fact, if the will says independent authority, then you're automatically granted it. If it doesn't say it in the will, you can still ask for it. In my 20 years, I have done very few limited authorities just because it's so horrible. And so you want to do everything. You want to convince the beneficiaries this is in everyone's interest. Everyone's going to get the same information, the appraisal. Everyone's going to have all their questions answered. But we don't need to do, especially in the Bay Area, there's no reason to do an overbidding process. Yeah. This isn't an area where real estate sits on the market or anyone's going to accidentally sell it for, 80% of what it's worth. That just doesn't happen here. Right. So again, I can understand why you would have an overbid process in areas of California that are rural or real estate markets that are slower, and you need to verify this is actually in everyone's best interest. But in the Bay Area, the normal real estate market is going to get you in an overbid situation anyway. Just putting it on MLS, things are going for 105% of list on a regular basis. And like we were talking about in 2017 and 18, the Bay Area, Santa Clara County, where I practice, had less than 1 month of inventory of real estate for like 6 consecutive months. So the needle between buyer and seller had gone so far over to the seller side that it just snapped off. And the buyers were almost in the fetal position, begging people, take our money. And people were like, I don't know. It was very, sellers and their listing agents could be completely arrogant. But that's not, in that type of market, you don't need a judge saying, are you sure you sold it for enough money? Yeah. The regular market's taking care of that. People are in a frenzy. And so that's why, in my career, unless there's some compelling reason, it's going to go independent authority.
So why would you say, what is your just professional opinion? I mean, there's obviously a number of attorneys throughout the state that either don't know about that or find some benefit in doing it, going the hard way. Like what benefit how could that benefit them or the family?
I truthfully don't think that it could.
I don't think so either.
I mean, honestly, again, if you're in an area of California, we have 58 counties, right? So the Bay Area, Southern California, the urban areas, the hot real estate markets, they don't need that. Like if you're in an area that's going through a real estate slump or is a hot buyer's market, which there just aren't that many in California, I could see there would be some benefit of demonstrating to all parties concerned that we have bent over backwards to make sure we're maximizing the value of the real estate. But again, we've done probates in every Bay Area county, every single one of them. There's just no need for that here. And so, we had one, I remember this, my business partner had a limited authority case in Alameda County in Oakland in 2007, right at the beginning of the crash, right before the crash really kicked in. And they had limited authority, and I think that client just didn't want to pay the extra bond. Like, he wanted to save a few bucks. And what was problematic is that the house went into foreclosure during probate. And as we talk about, almost no traditional lender wants to lend to a house or a real estate while it's in probate. You have to find some combination of hard money or some other crazy situation. So your traditional 30-year mortgages, your Wells Fargo, nobody's lending while real estate is while it's in the probate process. Right. So we went to the judge trying to save this house because there was enough equity that the person could get paid out if you don't let it go to foreclosure. And we said, Your Honor, we found, this hard money note, the interest rate is this. And again, this happened in 2007. I don't think the conclusion would be the same later. The judge is like, no, I reject this. You haven't proven to me that you've asked enough traditional lenders and that you've been turned down enough. Meanwhile, the foreclosure process is steamrolling ahead, and it was a near disaster.
Wow. So you couldn't file they wouldn't file an injunction to stop it and protect the equity for the family?
Yeah, what's crazy though, and this is what we learned, and it's a painful lesson that everybody learned, probate attorneys, judges, the reason that wouldn't happen in 08 or 09 is by then the judges running the courts figured out this is catastrophic system failure, right? In 2007, we were one of the first people to run into this issue, and the judges, like everyone else, were learning on the fly, this is a disaster. So backing up, when I said California probate is about creditors, lining them up and making sure they get paid, the only people that don't have to wait in line are banks that are foreclosing. In California, they have a statutory right to foreclose, and they can obliterate an estate by forcing a foreclosure and forcing insolvency on the entire estate. I mean, we've had that happen where they just couldn't raise the money to pay it off, and it went into default, and it annihilated the equity in the house. It all went to their the foreclosure people, and law firms are scrambling. We're throwing out petitions, temporary restraining orders, all sorts of crazy stuff, because the traditional creditors all have to stand in line, right? Even the IRS and the Franchise Tax Board, our taxing authorities, they still respect the process. The only people that did not were the lenders who were moving to foreclose. And we had estates where there'd be 50-50, loan to value, moving to foreclose and can't do anything in the probate process. Secure restraining orders, ask for as many timeouts, and then work some solution, try to find some kind of money. And again, as the recession progressed, 8, 9, and 10, the judges and their staff started realizing, look, if we don't allow things that we wouldn't have allowed before, all these estates are going to implode, all of them. We're trying to help families a little bit, not lose absolutely everything, the shirts off their back, when they, there's enough equity there to get out, a short sale or whatever. But early on in 7 and 8, the courts were simply unprepared for like everywhere, for the complete flood of insolvencies in the estates. It was catastrophic. And the system, reason number one to not be in the probate system is don't be tied into that. Be able to refi, use a hard money note, make an intelligent decision without asking anyone's permission. Because that system, the probate system, it wasn't set up for that level of catastrophic failure in the system. And they were completely, people were really hurt badly by being in probate during those years.
Yeah. So 8 months would be a quick probate in
lightning fast
in California. That's the fast lane. So
depending on what county you're in also.
Tell us a little bit about what is the longest case that you've worked on, and what are the most common delays? Like, what are the most common reasons?
Yeah.
And who is to blame for those delays? Like when those cases start to stretch out. So what is your longest one?
Well, if it's in actual litigation, they can go on for years. We had a case that went on 8 or 9 years, and we actually subbed out after year 2. So another law firm took over for us, and they went in and fought round and round. That was the big case I was telling you about out of San Francisco. That was insanity. So, we closed one recently that was 3 years, and that was because the decedent, the guy's fault, was the one who died. He didn't pay his taxes the last 5 or 6 years of his life, just plain didn't pay his taxes. IRS came and said, hey, you owe us a ton of money. Oh, yeah. And 2 years before he died, he sold his house and didn't do any withholding. So in addition to your normal income taxes not being paid, the decedent didn't pay any of that on the real estate. And so there was a massive tax bill. And the executor didn't want to close out the probate until the IRS was fully satisfied. And we had gone round and round with them, arguing on, what the basis was going to be, how the taxes would be assessed. And so in that case, the fault lay with the person who set it up, specifically for not filing his taxes. So that one went on about twice as long as normal because there was that extraordinary situation of, addressing the IRS and the franchise tax board's concerns about somebody who died without paying taxes for many years. And that's not that uncommon.
Yeah.
So that will definitely double the length of a probate or unusual things like that.
You find that most delays are the fault of the family, like the people involved, like not getting things done on time or things they've done in the past that you have to clean up?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, family fist fights over money is the number one most common source of delay in probate or trust administration. There are trust administrations that can go on as long as any probate if people are suing each other and all sorts of stuff. So it really is something that's tragic. As we were talking about before, when I give my seminars, I always say, when a realtor approaches a personal representative, one thing to be aware of is that they're almost certainly working for free. And it almost isn't financially worth it for them to be the executor at all. It's a second job when they have their own wife and kids or spouse and kids, their own job. And they're doing this because of a family obligation. And it kind of becomes like the story of the little red hen. It's the parable that I use in my seminars. Like, when mom and dad are getting elderly and they're in nursing homes or they're still living at home, like, who wants to drive dad to the doctor? Nobody. Who wants to make sure mom's taking her medicine? Nobody. Who wants to get up 3 times in the middle of the night to walk them to the bathroom? Nobody wants to do that. But who wants to help me spend their money when they're gone? Everybody. And where's my money right now? And why isn't it in my bank account? They've been dead for 4 days. Like, honestly, the level of ingratitude and greed is staggering when you have to face it for the first time. I mean, 20 years in, it's old hat. My common executor who's on the receiving end of that has the same look on their face. They're holding their heads in their hands. They're like, I was raised with this person. Like, this is my sibling. Like, I thought I knew this person. And, saying it kind of tongue in cheek, like, I actually have to pretend to be surprised. Honestly, we see it all the time. I'd actually be surprised in the families where there isn't some sort of fist fighting over the money. I guess we're a little bit jaded in our industry, but it happens so regularly, and the fact patterns are so unoriginal. We have to pretend to be shocked and surprised when our clients are like in complete free fall and dismay over this. And I was like, yeah, that's, par for the course. That's more than half of what we deal with, is helping families communicate better, get the job done with open lines of communication, everybody feel included in the process, and speed things along. So, yeah.
So for anyone who's ever followed our calls, they've heard me say, I insist that every single decision maker be present for at least the initial conversation.
Absolutely.
And the way I frame that is, who do you feel like should be part of these conversations? Even if they're not, they don't have a legal right to be there. If they have social leverage, they damn well better be there, because of what you're talking about. This can be a powder keg if it's not handled correctly. And as professionals, we can smooth out a lot of those wrinkles as intermediaries, and not in an official capacity, but just by like including everybody and giving them the voice. And I've got a lot of stories that, I'm hard-headed. It took me a few deals to learn that lesson. But once I learned it, I will not go on an appointment. Unless everybody can be included in the same conversation, I'm not going. Yeah. Because I know how easy it is to make their situation way worse.
Yeah. Honestly, when I draft estate plans for families, our big focus is family harmony, right? Like, it's cool to avoid probate and minimize taxes, but if your kids sue each other, after you're gone, there's been some level or massive failure in your estate plan. And, when I started the industry 20 years ago, the staple or the standard trustee is the oldest child in the family.
Right.
Everything falls on one kid. The others are excluded from the process. We even talked about this, like the attorney, there's no such thing as an attorney for the estate or the attorney for the trust. It's the attorney for the personal representative or the attorney for the trustee. And what that means is you have attorney-client privilege with one member of the family. You can only speak to one person about the estate. So if that person doesn't want you talking to their siblings, your lips are sealed as the attorney. You have to keep that confidential. Unfortunately, that creates suspicion. That creates assumptions that there's bad stuff going on, even when there's not, even when everyone's following the law. The fact that people have been cut out of the process, feel excluded because that's the way it was set up. It's going to lead to a fist fight over money, regardless of whether there was good or bad stuff happening. So like on the drafting side, when I meet families and do their trust and set up their estate plans, I tell them, you don't have to pick just one kid. You can include, if you have 3 kids, you can set them up as 3 trustees together, as co-trustees or co-executors. And that way, even though it's unwieldy, right, you need a bunch of signatures every time something needs to get done. That's better than them being suspicious over one another and suing each other later. So I recommend that unless there's a compelling reason not to.
Yeah. You don't see it that much. I've done a couple that had like 2 and 3 co-executors, and it wasn't really necessary. They already were getting along and shared common, like their guns were pointing the same direction, but maybe that's why.
Right.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit. I mean, one of the biggest things that I've been wanting to kind of like to have a probate attorney talk to our group is, one of the conversations that you mentioned in the beginning and that we talk about on a weekly basis is how do you build a referral network of probate attorneys that can bring business to you? Like selfishly, that's the outcome you're looking for. And
absolutely,
like I've coached a lot of folks on this. I'd like to hear from you. Like, let's talk about what's the one thing in your business that's redundant, non-legal, that you wish you could delegate to an investor, to a realtor. Like if you had the right partner, what could you and what would you delegate to them? Just so, and guys, what I'm getting at here for those of you watching, like pay attention, because this is going to be your service roadmap. This is what you need to have in place to be valuable to probate attorneys.
Yeah. Basically everything in the real estate realm is critical, and we'd love to offload as much of that as we could. The personal property inventories, disposing of that. We had an estate where a guy was he used the words quotes collector. He wasn't really, but every time he went off to Vietnam or the Philippines or whatever, he'd come home with a bunch of stuff. And he died, and his house was literally 6 dumpsters, like the big mega dumpsters, to the brim of crap. And before we could dispose of it, we had to bring somebody in there to make sure, look, is this valuable artwork or is this junk? And it turned out it was all junk. So process 1 is we had to hire a company that does estate appraisals on the personal property. And they had to go in there and go line by line and item by item and photograph and research and spend a lot of time figuring out, is there any economic value here? Is there anything here that needs to go on eBay or be sold in an estate sale? Or can it all just go in the dumpster? For that specific case, 99% of it went in the dumpster because they were knockoffs. They were of sentimental value to him and of no real economic value to anybody else. But we had a probate. It was really funny. We represented one party. The judge, the 2 parties, the siblings were fighting over who gets to be executor. So the judge just, they were solemn, and they're like, neither are you going to be executor. The judge is going to appoint a new executor for the estate. And that guy walked in the house and literally, without looking, without appraising anything, took a backhoe and put everything in the dumpster, literally. And we found out later that one of the things that went in the dumpster without anyone noticing is their dad had a signed letter from Jackie Robinson. Like an original handwritten letter from Jackie Robinson, and it was easily appraised in the $20,000-$30,000 range. That went in the dumpster. That was lost forever.
Wow.
And all I remember thinking is, boy, I am glad I did not appoint that trustee. They're going to be angry at the judge for doing that, and thank God they're not coming for me for a negligent referral, because that was done. So anything personal property related, anything getting the house ready for sale, that's all outside the legal process.
But you find yourself spending time on that, even though it's outside of the scope of your service.
Exactly. Personal property is just one of those things where it's either super valuable or it's junk 99% of the time, or the stuff that's of sentimental value, right? It's important to people, but it doesn't have economic value. People will fight over that just as long. And I try to, referee those disputes. But if somebody could come alongside the family and say, look, it doesn't make a lot of sense to be fist fighting over a lot of the stuff. Let's get to some bottom line decisions and help them move along. And I don't have to play the bad guy for that. That'd be awesome.
Yep. So obviously you're familiar with our model. We teach people kind of the hub and the wheel concept. So you can, our real estate professional should be the hub as a probate expert. One of the spokes would be probate attorney. So we look at you as one of our core team members, not as a competitor.
Absolutely.
Like we want to pick up where you leave off. So
Absolutely.
guys, all the things that we talk about, offering services like being able to clean out personal property, being able to communicate with a social worker and get somebody into more suitable housing or a safer living environment, senior moving companies, estate sale companies, investment advisors, CPAs, all those things we can do to help the family where they're not calling John's office saying, hey, what do I do about this? How do I do this? And you and your staff aren't dealing with it. If you can take that redundancy out of that, their day to day, then obviously that helps them be more efficient and close more files and handle things, quicker. So it equals money. And at the end of the day, like anything you can do non-legal adds value to, like, that makes your business and your service valuable to the probate attorney who's handling the legal aspects. And a good probate expert, probate attorney relationship should feel like it should feel like a team. Like the attorney should say, hey, I need to get these guys some vacant house insurance. Can you take care of that today? This house is sitting vacant. And you go do that. And when you have a legal question, the attorney should stop what he's doing, ask it, and move on. Like you're literally team. It should be a symbiotic relationship. So that's one of the most common questions is, well, I really want to go visit attorneys. What do I say? And that's what we're talking about. Like what I always say is, what are your value points? The same things, typically the same things that are valuable to the family are valuable to the probate attorney. And it's shocking how few people will actually get out there and do this. That will go looking at what's more shocking is what a warm, enthusiastic reception everybody gets from probate attorneys. And at all 50 states, anyone who gets up from their desk and goes and does this, if you go visit 5 attorneys and if you have a strong offer and you're confident in your delivery, if you visit 5 attorneys, you're all but guaranteed to have one that just falls in love with you and says, yes, please, deal with this. Because they're making their money. They're not paying you for the service you're bringing. And if you're providing real value, you'll get paid for that. And you'll be able to monetize your spokes. So what would you say is the most common way people get the door slammed in their face trying to get into your office? Like what's the best way not to impress a probate attorney or not to get referrals from them?
A couple of ways. Spamming them, obviously. I mean, the thing is, one, attorneys are people, right? And we're also business owners. So if you approach us as normal human beings and as business owners with the same respect that you want for yourself, it's going to be fine. The one thing that's going to get a door slammed in your face is if you don't have any idea what you're talking about in the field and you're telegraphing that, or you start referring to the things that the attorney does in a, disrespectful manner, or just making light of what the attorney does. And, obviously I tell as many attorney jokes as anyone else because they're my colleagues and myself. And so we have a good sense of humor, but there's a line that people cross when they think, oh, what you do is simple and easy, and that you don't really do much, or you're charging too much, or, we have the liability that almost no other professional has. What the state bar puts on us, responsibility wise, the different ways that we're held responsible according to our code of ethics. It's really greater than almost any other professional, and we feel the weight of that every time we talk to a client and what we're doing. So somebody who doesn't really appreciate that and thinks that what we do on the legal side is really not that big a deal, that's going to rub a lot of people wrong, because we know the truth. We know the liability that comes with helping these families and navigating it. And we know where the liability falls. It's either going to fall on the executor, it's going to fall on their counsel, and we're aware of that at all times. So that would not be a good approach, is to minimize the work of the attorney. It sounds weird, but yeah, I've had people do that.
What about how they approach you? So, we have people that send letters to attorneys, make phone calls to attorneys. I tell them not to do either, because I've seen such good results. When you look a probate attorney in the eye and he realizes you're doing the right things for the right reasons with his client's best interest in mind first. And it's just like taking candy from a baby. It's super simple. Where in the mailbox and on the phone, it just seems to be a constant struggle. So what's your perception on that? Do you even read letters that you get from realtors or investors?
No. Leon, my business partner, and I were laughing about that. Every time we open a probate, we get 50 letters from realtors, right? Everybody wants, especially Silicon Valley, right? Everybody wants a listing. And everybody's approach is, hey, I'm a good person. You know, my mom says I'm a good person.
Me,
Yeah, exactly.
me.
And I have a big track record or a small track record, or I'm this, I'm that, you know, and honestly, like, you know, we read our mail over the trash can, right? Because we get so much garbage when we open an estate.
Yeah.
And there's a handful of things you can't ignore, right? If there's a creditor notice, you got to put that to the front. You don't have time for that. So building the personal relationship with the law firm up front is the primary differentiator, right? That's what's going to make the difference in getting a business from a realtor. You know, just like ATL's, you know, their approach is contribute, right? Bring value to the situation, lead with contribution, lead with value, lead with here's what we can do to make your job easier. Here's how we can help. That's gonna win over anybody, lawyer, CPA, financial advisor. That's the best way to approach business in general, and it's the best way to work with lawyers. Come and say, hey, you know, I understand, you know, you have these challenges. Here's how I can help you with that. That's going to be somebody that's going to be looked on and relied upon. So yeah, be professional, be punctual, be on time. You know, don't be overly casual in dealing with the attorney. But most importantly, come with value that you're bringing, because everybody wants the listing, right? It's a gold mine here in the Bay Area for listings. You know, 2.5%, and the median home price in Santa Clara County is 1.2, 1.3. Yeah, like that's a good chunk of change. Everybody wants that.
Yeah.
But you got to come with something a lot more than I'm a good person or I have, you know, 5 million years experience. Like, who doesn't at this point?
Yeah. Yeah. Something we often, one of the ideas I share and challenge people to go do is, you know, if you really are serious about opening starting a relationship with a probate attorney or an estate planning attorney, starting on the right foot, go through your past clients, go through your family, your friends, your church, whoever it is, and find people who don't have a proper estate plan. They don't have a trust,
Exactly.
They don't have a will, even if it's just a will. Like, because John can sit down with somebody who says, hey, I guess I'll write a will. That's a couple $100. And then he can, maybe by asking a few good questions, he can realize, wait, this person actually needs a living trust because they've got this, you know, this massive investment account that's, you know, whatever it is. What the idea is to go through your sphere of influence, through your past clients, and find the people that do need an estate plan. And a little secret here, the answer is they all do. Unless they basically have no net worth. But you know, in real estate, we spend, whether you're an investor or a realtor, you know, investors, you're selling your deals to other investors who probably have more money than you do and have more assets than you do if you're wholesaling those. And realtors, we're putting people into probably the largest investment they'll ever make. Statistically, they're going to hold about 80% of their wealth in that real estate. But how many times have you ever said, okay, now that I've gotten you in this ginormous investment, let's make sure it's protected and your estate's protected and your family won't have to go through probate? None of us do that. But you can send an email, make a round of phone calls, find out who those hand raises are, and then open your attorney relationships with value. Walk in and say, you know, John, listen, I get, and John taught me something the other night I wasn't aware of. Attorneys can't actually solicit that business. So the fact that you're bringing them a qualified referral is huge, bigger than referral. Like, that has more value than referrals in almost any industry I can think of, because John can't legally and ethically go get that business the way you did, but you can bring it to him and give him the Glengarry lead right there. And how much impact does that have? Like, that's real value, right?
Yep. And that's what we were saying is, like, the solicitation rules in the state bar is you can't talk to somebody, you can't go after somebody that you have no prior relationship with about legal services. So I can't get on the phone and start calling people out of the yellow pages or white pages and say, hey, do you have a trust? Do you want one? We have no existing relationship. I would get reprimanded by the state bar for that. So a lot of the prospecting that realtors take for granted is prohibited from us, right? And so that's why in the 80s and 90s, all the attorneys were doing seminars, because that's, you know, education is not solicitation, right? So doing seminars, packing out seminars and all that was the best way for an attorney to grow their business and not run into the problem of the solicitation rules. And that's why everybody was doing it in the 70s and 80s. Now all that's moved online, you know, educate YouTube and online seminars and things like that has replaced the, you know, the rubber chicken dinner kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, that was how attorneys had to do it. So, you know, on a probate, those are again, in California, those are big ticket items for attorneys as well as they are for realtors. So it's an area where we can help each other out. But what you were saying is absolutely the case. Like, estate planning it's a human field of law. That's why I love it, right? Everybody needs an estate plan, anyone with little kids. So even if you're the brand new realtor and you've been licensed for 4 months, you know people who need an estate plan. Even if you don't have past clients, you have friends, family. If your kids are in school or daycare or in kindergarten or elementary school, every parent that you talk to in the same boat, 99% of them don't have their estate plan set up. Start talking to people and then say, hey, you know what? I'm working with this great trust attorney or probate attorney. If you don't have that, you know, I'm going to take a couple of my clients over and meet them at their office. Would you be interested in going with me? The best financial planners that I work with, who send me repeat business and really have the most respect that, you know, of their attorneys that they work with, they walk the client to the attorney's office and sit there on the couch, right? Yeah. And it's not just an introduction like, hey, you know, Steve's going to call you, because guess what? Steve doesn't call. Procrastination is everything in estate planning. You know, in the history of law, I don't think Steve has ever called, right? The guy who's given the attorney's number is just not going to do it. He's not. People find anything else they'd rather do than talk about wills and trusts, right? They'd rather have a root. They'd rather have a root canal.
Not going to happen.
Exactly, right? I'd rather have a root canal or do my taxes than I would do a will, right? But when people get out of that and they have somebody going with them and say, look, it's not scary. I did it for myself. My clients love the process. They feel a huge burden lift off their shoulders. They feel a huge relief after it was done. Yeah, it's uncomfortable in the beginning, but it's not that scary. And so if the realtor is hand walking their clients to the attorney's office, sitting down at the conference table or the couch with the client and introducing them in that manner, saying this is something you need to do, obviously that realtor is now going to the top of the Rolodex for the attorney. They now hold them in much higher respect than almost any other professional.
Yeah. One of the challenges a lot of folks have, even if they do have a strong offer and they are confident and they are making visits to attorneys' offices, you guys are hard to get a hold of, man. You're busy people. So I tell folks, you know, your best shot is, you know, midweek, midday. Would you agree with that? Like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday after 1 o'clock is probably the best time you could connect.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, the best way, I mean, not every law firm set up for drop-ins. One of the best ways to meet attorneys is out in the wild, so to speak. Anyone can, you know, any professional can go to the local bar association meeting, the estate planning council in the Bay Area. Every major county, every major region in the Bay Area has their own estate planning council, which is you know, a target-rich environment of estate planners, CPAs, trust officers. It's more than just attorneys there. It's all the allied professionals that work together on the probate and the trust side. And so, you know, you can be an affiliate member, you can show up. I know a mortgage guy that I do a lot of business with, and he's like, I've made at least $50,000-$60,000 in the last year just from that, just going to the rubber chicken dinners, nodding along as they give this boring speech, and then meeting people and then following up and being professional and doing what you say. And that's it. And he's like, and attorneys chase me down. So it's absolutely possible to meet attorneys out in the wild, so to speak, away from their desk, at those kind of functions, other seminars and things like that. You know, send them an invitation, say, hey, I'm going to have 10 of my clients who want to talk about a trust or a will or whatever. Will you come to my office at Keller Williams or wherever? And, you know, I'll bring the clients and I'll bring the food and the beverage. Would you come and talk to them about why it's important to have a trust, or what guardianship for a minor child looks like and what considerations good? That's going to be huge. You know, sending a form letter, it's not going to do it. You got to come with value. And there's a bunch of different ways of doing it right. And it's just, you know, it's the golden rule, right? Treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yeah. So, and just to circle back to the group you were talking about. So I know that right in your backyard is the first place I ever coached anyone to join one of these, but there are professional fiduciary groups, and you can be an affiliate member, or actually you can just pay your dues and be a member of that. And then you can pay dues and be an affiliate member of the bar.
Yep.
Now, I think it was in San Diego. One of our subscribers got rejected as they don't have an affiliate membership to the bar, because we had folks in Florida doing it and like different people. Someone came to one of our masterminds and said that doesn't exist. I couldn't get there. I think it was in San Diego.
Interesting.
But so what was the name of the group where the estate planning group, like where if someone's in Des Moines, Iowa looking for that in their town, what would you say would be, what would they search for?
Just Google estate planning council in whatever, obviously they're in larger counties and larger metro regions. Google if they have a estate planning council, or if they have the Santa Clara County Bar Association, or if they have, whatever county you're in, do they have the local bar association? You can just call the bar themselves and say, hey, where does your estate planning the group meet? Are they Tuesday, second Tuesday of every month? Where do they meet? And they'll help plug you in. So if they do, I mean, most of them that I've ever been a part of have affiliate members of all industries.
Yeah.
And so, it's pretty cool to be the only realtor in the room, right? You don't get a lot of opportunity to be 50 lawyers and one realtor. It's pretty cool.
Right.
So yeah, that's one of the great ways of networking, where you can actually go past the gatekeeper and speak directly to the people and present your value to them right away.
Yeah. So one other idea that I wanted to circle back to, you and I talked about this privately, but one of the things I've challenged a lot of folks to do, just because it forces them to get familiar with their local probate laws, but it also gives them a big value point for attracting an attorney partner. The idea is to sit down with your attorney, with a probate attorney in your market, and simply map out, like make a list. Literally think of this as a checklist. Like these are the 175 things that the family has that have to be done. And then the attorney call it whatever the legal, anything that's legal would have one color and non-legal would have another color. What we find is across the nation, about 20% of probates do not have an attorney assigned at the time of filing. And I think it's closer to 100% end up having an attorney. Some people think they can do it on their own, and they get in this deep and they've done nothing for 6 months and they're like, oh shit, what now? And I'm betting you've had some of those clients, right?
Yeah, exactly.
The idea is to create a co-branded marketing piece that actually shows them how much responsibility they've taken on their own, and then put the attorney's logo down here and yours here, and then that way it's not a direct solicitation from the attorney. It is a value piece. It actually shows those people like what they don't know what they don't know. It's probably the first time they've ever done this. They probably are underestimating the level of stress and responsibility and liability that comes with it. And you can put this in with your mailers, a checklist that says, listen, I noticed you didn't have an attorney. Everything in red up here is what the attorney could do for you. Otherwise, this is on you. Like all this liability and all this responsibility is on you. So you can sit down with your probate attorney. One thing that's going to do for you is help you. It's either going to validate your knowledge or show you what you don't know and give you an opportunity to learn that from the attorney. It's going to be very valuable for the attorney because they know at least 20% of the probate cases each month that they're not allowed to go to the courthouse and gather and solicit to are going to be seeing something that the time, hour or two that they took to sit at the desk and do this, it can benefit them for years to come because you're already sending a letter. All you have to do is slip that page in there. So it can be a huge value point for your attorney partner. And
absolutely.
I mean, John, if somebody came in and offered to do that for you, I mean, would you drop what you were doing and sit down and do it right then? Say, yes, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I was saying, probate is really good business for attorneys in California, in the Bay Area. So bringing somebody in on that where there's, if 20% of the leads don't have an assigned attorney, sit down with the client and say, put the real estate on the back burner. First things first, we need to help you move this thing along as quickly as possible. I've worked with 1 or 2 probate attorneys that are really successful and help their clients and are reasonably priced. Would you be willing to sit down with them and talk and bring that client to the attorney's office? There's an open door anytime you call that attorney from that point on. So that's the sort of, when we're talking about leading with contribution, absolutely, that'd be huge.
Yep. All right, war stories. I'm curious, can you think of a time where a real estate professional really went above and beyond their scope of service and impressed the hell out of you?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we had one probate. This is before the crash. This is 2005. And so we had a probate that was scheduled to close on a Friday. And the one criteria that was required in order for the probate to close was the house be sold. So the house was in escrow. Deadline was Monday, going to close escrow Monday, right? We found out right about the day it was supposed to close that the deal collapsed. The buyer, for whatever reason, flaked, couldn't commit, couldn't perform. The entire deal collapsed, which takes the probate down with it, right? No money to pay the creditors, no money to pay the IRS, no money for the beneficiaries, the court fees, anything, because that was the only asset in the estate. That realtor that worked that project on our side went out, found a cash buyer, and made an all cash offer, and it was accepted in 48 hours and closed.
Nice.
And so we were scheduled to close Friday. The deal fell apart Monday, and by Wednesday we were back in business on the probate, and everybody got paid, and the creditors got paid, and the estate could close. And that saved the family, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 good months of delay by getting that stuff done on the spot. So that was a realtor. I don't even remember his name. I just called him the magician. It was Leon's client. I'm like, what's that guy, the magician? What's his name? He's like, Steve, you see, the magician, get him in. You know, this guy had the Swiss Army knife of solutions, right? Because, you know, my running joke to our clients is nobody brings the attorneys the easy stuff, right? Nobody brings us the stupid simple. They do it themselves, right? They bring us the problems. We are problem solvers, right? So that's what we get compensated for, is solving problems. So any realtor, any investor who has that kind of mindset, I'm a Swiss Army knife and I have a toolkit that can help get this thing from point A to point B with the least amount of hassle, and have fallback plans to keep deals afloat, keep probates closing in a timely manner. That's everything in our industry.
Yep. And that's what we try to drive home every single day. You know, you can never stop building your team. Like the more knowledge you have about real estate, especially things like creative financing and the investor side of the business, but the better you understand your local probate process, the better you understand what the attorney has to do and the timelines they're under.
Yep.
And the better you understand the overall real estate knowledge, the more nimble you are. And that even comes down to construction costs. Because when you can walk into a house, when the deal has gone sideways and come off the rails, and you can walk into a house and go, okay, there's $60,000 in work in here. The ARV is about $350. That means I can, at this price, it's a good deal, and I'll call this guy. You have the cash buyers, you have the construction knowledge, you have the contractors to back you up. You can say, hey, Mr. Investor, step in here and buy. I'll get my last client to fund you with private money. I'll get my contractor to come in here so you don't have to worry about the short timeline. And I've been able to sell. I sold my fastest deal ever. I sold a 20-unit apartment building in, I think it was 28 hours from end to end, from contract to close. My title company busted their ass. Fastest, actually the second fastest deal I've ever done. I bought a house myself. He assigned his foreclosure to me. It took me 3.5 hours end to end. That's my record deal. But the apartment building was like basically in a day. We sold an apartment building, and I got a phone call. She said, listen, they're accelerating a note. This thing has to be gone. It was June 29th, and they were foreclosing on June 30th. And I'm like, let me make a call. But I had done the legwork. I understood how to put that deal together. I had the relationships with title companies, with inspectors, and everyone that I needed. I could put a deal together in 24 hours and close it. The more you know, the more people you know, the more knowledge you have, the more familiar you are with all of the probate processes, real estate processes, the more nimble you can be. And that's when you become really valuable to your attorneys, to all the other people on your team. Like, because you at that time, it's like you said, call the magician, right? Like call the transaction engineer. That guy can, he could make lemonade any day of the week. And that's what we really encourage all of our people to do. Like when we talk about the hub and the wheel and building the team, I think some people are like, oh shit, that's not necessary. I'm just going to put letters in the mail and make calls. And it's like, yeah, that works. And a broken clock is right twice a day too. But do you want to do this? Do you want to be an expert in this space, or are you just in it to get a deal every once in a while? And the people like David Pinnell, who our audience will know, we did a case study a couple weeks ago. Like he's the one, he takes that seriously. He takes that to heart. And Bill Bird, which is in your neighborhood, like up in Marin, Bill embraced that mindset and became really valuable to the fiduciaries, to the attorneys, to the judges. I mean, he has relationships with anyone who's in probate. He knows now, and they know what he does. So it's just to underscore what we always teach you guys. Like, listen, you're hearing it from the horse's mouth. That's what really makes you valuable. Like being nimble, being creative. And being just not being an asshole goes a long ways too. Like respect the attorneys, respect their time, and find ways to bring real value.
Yep, absolutely. So,
what would you say the real estate community needs to learn the most about the probate law side of things?
About the probate law side of it.
like, where do you feel like realtors and investors they just kind of have a knowledge gap or a blind spot? Like, what would you love to teach every single person watching this? Like, if you had one chance to teach them one thing that would make your industry a better industry or make your
Yeah.
job easier, what is that?
Yeah. I think honestly, just general levels of professionalism. That's huge for us. Those are the standards that we're held to. For them to work with us successfully, they have to understand our role and what we are allowed to do and not allowed to do. Maintaining attorney-client privilege, general levels of professionalism, like all that stuff goes a country mile to forging better relationships with attorneys. And so a lot of people don't understand, realtors, everybody else, like what my authority is and what I can share. Somebody posted on Facebook, they said, if I can't get the phone number of the executor, can I call the attorney? And I said, you cannot. That would be, in our industry, a career-ending mistake to share confidential attorney-client information with a third party without consent. It's a great question, but the answer is that's not something that would ever happen. Any attorney who did that would find themselves in seriously hot water. So, just generally for realtors and investors to understand our obligations and how we operate, it's going to make your relationships 1,000% better.
Something, this is kind of circling back. I just remembered, I forgot to ask this. So one of the common things, and this is pretty much everywhere across the country, and I understand that, humans retain about 20% of what they hear in the initial conversation, right? That's just psychology. That's how our brain works. And I think it's oftentimes what they heard, not what was said. But one of the most common objections that our folks hear on the phone is, well, my attorney said I can't do anything until he calls me and tells me.
Right.
We know, especially in states like California, where you have very high carrying costs, like insurance costs, property taxes, it can end up costing the family, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of just sitting there when you could, even though you can't close the probate, you could have that house on the market. You could have it under contract contingent upon court approval. I mean, what's your advice to folks? I mean, when you, in your process, I mean, do you have families, do you encourage families to be aggressive in getting assets, up for sale if that's the ultimate plan, or do you leave it to?
Yeah, in the trust situation, it's a lot faster to do that. The only thing, like in the actual probate system, is that there's a lot of, especially California, a lot of brain dead formalities, right? Stuff that doesn't make logical sense, but you got to deal with it. That's the system, right? And so, even putting something up for sale, like real estate. So in California, every probate has to have a probate referee. That's a court-appointed appraiser, and until that person does their job and is satisfied that has been taken care of and handled appropriately, you would not want to start the sale process. You can do all the prelim work, all the getting the property ready for sale. You do 100% of everything so that when the referees come back said it's worth X, then you know where to go.
And Jon, listen, thanks so much for giving us all the time that you have. In closing, I want to ask, like, if there's one thing you can share with the real estate community, both investors and realtors, I mean, what would be your best advice? As something we haven't really talked about is we're coming into, like, you're just getting into the heart of your career. Like, your business is going to grow exponentially over the next 40 years for sure. So as the sheer number of baby boomers start to go through this experience, and people are trying to set their business up, they're marketing directly to the personal representatives, providing value. They're trying to build the relationships with attorneys and other vendors, so they have that avenue. I mean, what would be your number one piece of advice to someone in the real estate industry that's looking to serve families in this space? Like, and it can be anything. It doesn't have to be related to how they can serve you. But, like, what's the most important thing, do you think, for a real estate professional to be accepted by the family, by the attorney, by the judge, and not accepted, but respected?
Sure. Yeah. Professional development, obviously. Even, I mean, as you were talking about, like the baby boom generation, as they continue to age, understanding it's not just probate. It's not just after somebody dies. Like, when I give my seminars or talk to clients on living trust, the primary benefits are not just after you die. They're for incapacity. They're for dementia, Alzheimer's. It's an entire industry around human beings that are going through the aging process, and families going through it. and families feel isolated. They feel, that they're not experts in the information. And so the ability for a realtor, anybody to come alongside the family and educate them and say, look, you're not the only person dealing with these issues. Don't feel bad. There's an entire range of issues, bringing in a whole bunch of industries. And like I said, when you deal with certain issues, healthcare stuff, a family it won't even be in your top 1,000 things to think about until it becomes your most important. Dementia, Alzheimer's is one of those things. A family dealing with cancer, that's not even on your radar, the top 1,000 things you need to worry about in your daily thing, until it becomes the most important thing that you deal with in your life. Yeah. And so the absolute feeling of overwhelm that comes along with that, the ability for a realtor, for an attorney, for CPA to be compassionate, to come alongside these families, say, you're not alone. You're not the only family dealing with this. There's support groups. There's a whole range of services that we can help plug you into, so that you don't feel like you're navigating this all by yourself. And so that's what I really, the most important information I could impart to your realtors. Get as educated as you can on the subject in the entire field, network and associate with all the professionals, not just lawyers in this field, and bring real value to the families, bring compassion, bring understanding and empathy. And that's going to go forever.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. I think that's a great way to close it out. Again, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
I've this conversation for a long time. And if there's ever anything we can do to help you, where can folks, you have a YouTube channel for your law practice? And
not a YouTube.
The best place for folks to catch up with you?
Yeah. So, our law firm website is fairly basic. I have a Keller Williams site just under my name, JonEricFraker.com. And I have a YouTube website that is called Silicon Valley Homes and Schools. And I put up some educational videos there on specifically, Northern California related topics with regards to real estate taxes and things like that. But it's really been well received by people because there's a lot of money at stake for making mistakes and getting stuff wrong. So my job mostly just to educate people. Here's some landmines to avoid. So that's a great way to connect with me. And also Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah, and guys, we'll link to Jon's his social media profiles, and you can drop comments if you guys have questions. It's something we didn't say in the beginning, but if you guys have questions, comments, please drop them below, whether you're on the blog or on YouTube, and we'll try to get your questions answered if we didn't answer it here. If I don't know the answer, I'll get Jon to help me out. But thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this. Jon is by far the best probate attorney I've met that could fit this role. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Chad.
And go enjoy your birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day, guys.